Brian here from Resolve Technology. And today on our ticket talk, one of the tickets we get from time to time is on Microsoft Access security pop ups, security warnings, and things like that. Some of our clients have homegrown Microsoft Access databases that they've been using for years, and a lot of them contain macros and different things on, and they're living on a network somewhere. And Microsoft over the years has been trying to lock down access so that when you enable this stuff, like it's not going to dump something malicious onto the computer. So Chris is going to talk a little bit about what to look for and how to disable those pop-ups so you can actually, you got to be able to use your database, right? So go ahead,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah. So you might see something like this, and you could see this in pretty much just about any Microsoft app. Like Brian was mentioning, macros on Word, Excel. You'll see like this security warning. Some content has been disabled, or there's other status security warnings like this that may be different for Access as well. But you have to actually click enable content. Some people see this and they try to ignore it. And then you get this message here, like some content was blocked. Please review Trust Center settings. Now, you could enable content and still have an issue. In that case, you might see this where it's telling you to go to Trust Center. Essentially, in that case, if I can bring up Microsoft Access here. So we have Access up here. You go to the options on the bottom left. You click Trust Center at the bottom tab here, and then Trust Center settings, this button, and then trusted locations. So I don't have anything in here. I don't use Microsoft Access. I rather not use it if I can help. But sometimes what you need to do is you may have a database on a map drive. You may have a database in C users Chris documents, for example, on my locally to my documents folder. You may need to add those as a trusted location. Another thing we see this a lot with, even if it's something you're not actively using, you might have a client that sends you over a zipped up attachment that's an Access database. That's why you see stuff like this in Microsoft. People are sending documents all the time, whether it be a Word document, Excel, and they might have macros baked into them, might be some sort of template. Microsoft, this security is not for just because they want to give you a hard time. We generally do stuff like this, or Microsoft does stuff like this, so you don't open anything malicious. It's trying to dumb it down and make it so user error is not the cause of something bad happening, and that they make it so you actually have to hit enable or accept. That's why you might see a Word document in read only out the gate when you open it that was emailed to you from someone out of your organization.
The other, Chris, I just want to
Yeah.
mention too, while you got the screen up there, the other thing with these homegrown databases is sometimes you have to go and enable you go into the macro settings section or the ActiveX settings, depending on how the developer designed their program and how fancy they got, because there's some pretty fancy forms for some of our clients. You may have to enable that for each database that you have.
Another thing to piggyback on Brian's point there's some software that just isn't the best of software. We see this with accountants, especially, is they might be using some kind of 32-bit macro or 32-bit. What was it again in Excel there? I'm drawing a blank. Those 32
An
add-ins.
Yeah.
So you might need to change your add-in settings because by default it might disable them. Same thing with Brian said macros. Some programs require you to enable all macros even though it says not recommended. Same with trusted locations. Maybe you have an app server where the software lives on, speaking to the client, your workstation or laptop, and maybe there's a SQL server living on Windows somewhere else. You may also need to allow trusted locations on my network, which is not recommended. But you typically see this with older software that's not. It's generally older, poorly coded software that may require stuff like this.
And we only typically do that when we have to, but a lot of times we have to because it's just the way that the program was designed and they run it off a network. So you might have 20 people or more connecting into that Microsoft database. And the thing is, Access wasn't designed really for this whole multi-user environment. So it locks things in a weird fashion and there's different things that we have to troubleshoot from time to time. But this is the big one on the security pop-ups.
Yeah, no, we have a client that uses like, what is it, calibration control ape software. They got one seat, it's an Access database. It kept saying like trial mode, but they're like, we own this software. Essentially, I had to go into the C program files where the program lives and delete the config file. And then when it relaunches, I'd have to remap that Access database file to the correct database. So that message went away. And only one person may be in it at a time. So like if I'm in there, it's going to say file in use. So like you're saying, generally you use some other type of line of business software that's built on like an actual database like SQL or something along those lines.
Right. Hey, Chris, thanks for showing us this.
Yep.
I hope this helps somebody out.
All right. Have a good one.
All right. You too.